Happy Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for checking in. Special edition Traded Black podcast on a Tuesday, 4 o'clock. Why not? Super busy as this space is not dull right now. A lot of questions asked. And what do we see here today? Former Governor Chris Christie makes an announcement about cannabis and thinks that Donald Trump could make it legal. You buy into it? Seems a little suspicious. I don't know where this comes from because the two really can't sit in the same room, but interesting take to say the least. As well, Ascend Wellness, the latest multi-state operating cannabis company, report their latest earnings, including a little over $141 million in net revenue. So we're going to bring in actually their CEO, Frank Perullo, in just a second, because I know there's a lot of you that have asked about us interviewing Ascend. So with that, let's jump into it. Welcome in AV here on a special Tuesday. Good to see you.
How's it going? Good. Yeah, it's another interesting day, complete opposite of yesterday.
We will get into this little
completely flipped.
Yeah, we will get into this little comment about Chris Christie. Definitely caught me by surprise. I'm not seeing the correlation between the two. I don't know how I should interpret this, but we'll ask some of those questions to you and how you think of it in just a moment. But like I said off the top, let's bring in Frank Perullo, president of Ascend Wellness. Good to see you. First time to the podcast. How are things?
Really, really well. Thanks for having me, gentlemen. Really, really nice to be here.
Well, appreciate it. Not a dull moment in this space. What do you make these last couple of weeks? I know like to get all kinds of takes from different management from various companies, but a lot of investors out there right now, all concerned about the future of the industry, and for good reason, because we've seen stocks get hit hard. But what is the message that you're communicating to your own shareholders during this time?
Yeah, I think this industry is one that just can't catch a break. Generally, we have had just a string of not the best news and uncertainty and volatility over these last few years. And as an operator, it's, I think, easy to get caught up in those market forces and the PR cycles. But generally speaking, as an operator, you've got to keep your head down. You've got to focus on the sort of near and long-term goals and what you can do to achieve those, both all the way down to the associate level, all the way up the ladder to the executive team, and just work on that and keep your head down, because the rest will take care of itself. And this large disconnect between the fundamentals of how equity trades and how companies perform, for me, it says focus on the business fundamentals of running the companies well.
Yeah. You mentioned about can't catch you a break, and I think it's putting it mildly. You're a Boston guy. Does this kind of remind you of being a Red Sox fan before 2004?
Yeah, it's I grew up in the late 70s, 80s, 90s, where we had some really lean years, and the ball went through Bill Buckner's legs, and my childhood was broken from a sporting fan perspective at that point. So yeah, it's pretty similar.
Check out that 3-episode series with it's called The Comeback on Netflix, about the 04 Red Sox, but it's phenomenal. But we can save that for a conversation for another day. Let's actually jump in. And before we get into numbers, let's get an update on the current direction of the company. You announced this past quarter that John Hartman is no longer CEO of the company, and Samuel Brill was appointed as the new CEO. You, as president, you played the role of interim CEO at one time with the Senate. I think it's going back 18 months to 24 months. You're also the co-founder of the company. So for shareholders wanting to understand, and more importantly, wanting to learn more on the direction of Ascend moving forward, what's your message to them?
Yeah, I think we are realigning for what the future is for Ascend, which is get back to basics, focus on producing the best products, keeping our customer first, and doing it in a cost-conscious way. We have to be prepared for these markets that we're seeing in these cycles. And to do that means you need to get really good at everything, right? So you've got to grow the best product. You got to give the customer the best experience, put the customer at the center, and do it in a way that's sustainable. Sustainability in this industry means getting better and lowering your cost of goods to deliver that experience for the customer. So that's our focus, is really, not grow at all costs, grow wisely and modestly, but with the bottom line growing probably more outsized than we've looked at in the past.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest change potential for the company moving forward, I guess, in the near term?
Biggest change. I think just the attitude of what founder-led means, for me at least, is we're back to being more nimble, more lean, and again, looking to grow the bottom line and be a cash flow generation company versus just sort of looking for that top line revenue growth.
Yeah.
And what that means for me is, again, just focusing on those products, focusing on growing the best cannabis we can, and the customer being very centric. Sometimes when you're chasing revenue growth and top line growth, you sort of put things to the side. It's like, oh, we can fix that later. We can focus on getting better at that later. That's not where our focus is today.
Yeah. Go ahead, Anthony.
As far as top line goes, I mean, you guys are, I think you're running at like an annualized a little over 500 million of a run rate right now. There was less than 1% dip year over year and less than 1% dip Q over Q, which I mean, bucked the industry trend from what we're seeing from the other operators. But when we were looking at the loss, I mean, the loss was, it was up quarter over quarter, and it was sizably up year over year. What was attributed to that? Are there any one-offs in there? And I mean, what should we think of? How should we be thinking of that to get like a handle on that? Let's say in the quarters to come.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're facing the same industry pressures as our peers. So we're our three largest markets are Illinois, New Jersey, and Massachusetts, where you do see outsized competition. And these are more mature markets with store openings happening regularly. Now we've offset that with our wholesale growth, right? We've been one of the largest house of brands in those three states. We're the #1 brand in Simply Urban, Massachusetts. So we have done, I think, the things needed to do to offset that, including growing more doors. And when you look at our densification strategy, that's where we think the future is. In New Jersey, particularly where the law allows us to get 7 partnership stores open and operating. We announced 1 today. We are actively pursuing 6 more. And I think that's where, I see some green shoots ahead.
Okay. And then I know also within the queue, it was announced that cost cutting initiatives. I know that it was up to, I think, 30 million in annual cost savings. Yes. Are those cost savings, have any of those shown through yet? Is this a 2025 initiative under the new management, or like walk me through what that looks like?
Yeah, the $30 million is a go-get that we started the day we came in. And the first thing we did was right-size labor, which is a very good chunk, probably up to about 1/3 of that number. And that will flow through over this next sort of quarter or two. And then the other 2/3 are the OpEx various spends that we've cut, whether it's consultants and various discretionary spend that we had gotten a little, I would say, fat, and we needed to get leaner. And, if you look, we cut the management layer, we've cut spend that wasn't necessary to the mission of supporting the customer. So that will take some of that, right, as our contracts that will sunset over these next quarter or two. Some of these are things that you won't see. They go into our, capitalized cost of goods, and you'll see that roll through as we sell the older product and move through newer product. So I think, the full benefit of that 30 million, it's a timing issue of happening over this next, call it 13 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
I attended actually one of your dispensary locations on the day Rec went live in Ohio, a steady flow of traffic. So we're 90 days in, you have 5 dispensary locations in Ohio. How would you best describe the first 90 days and how the market has performed for you?
Yeah, the market has performed well for us. We are, I think, exceeding our expectations and the rest of the market, where there's been some slight disappointment in sort of a 2x or slightly over 2x for the market. And we're at a 3x. So I think, we're pleased with our performance generally. I think that's based on our locations, with the Cincinnati location outperforming the market and doing a 12x, which I mentioned in the earnings.
Impressive.
We haven't seen the full benefit yet, right? We haven't seen a full quarter. One of our stores, which was one of our better performing stores, was actually an extra month delayed. So I think, we're still seeing some growth, and we'll get the full benefit in Q4 here for Ohio. But we're really pleased with what we see. The Cincinnati market's been the largest market, as I think people would maybe assume, because of its proximity to the Kentucky border. And we're seeing some good traffic from across the border.
Are you seeing any guidance from the regulatory authorities in Ohio when the full adult use regulations could potentially roll out?
Yeah, not yet. I mean, we've been like everyone else, right? September, end of the year, we haven't heard it. I will say the Ohio regulators, as they transition to adult use, we're dealing with a bunch of politics, and they've been very good. They've been very clear. They've, it's a former alcohol and I think it's an alcohol regulator who moved into this seat. And, again, he's been a good partner to the industry. So we are hoping that we get some clarity in that come the new year. But, the growth there of advertising and more form factors like pre-rolls would be a large boom to the business.
And my next question is, I kind of wanted to talk about resource allocation. I know that I don't want to say that you guys put an emphasis on wholesale, but you do have a significant wholesale business. How do you think of the business in terms of resource allocation to what product you're allocating to the retail versus wholesale channel? And I know that your EBITDA, I think the percentage this quarter was about 17.7%. Is there a target number that you have in mind to get that up? And are you kind of thinking about that through that lens of what you're allocating towards what channel within the business?
Absolutely. I think you're hitting the nail on the head on terms of what my priority is, right? As we came in, it was, let's look at where we can cut and where we can right size labor. Next, it's going to be sort of, what were our capabilities and where we can lean into things to make sure our production levels are steady and not variable. I think the third, and the one that I'm working on the most now, is what biomass goes to what form factor, to what brand, and to what channel, which is probably one of our largest opportunities. We have been, I think, with lots of brand partners, we've had some success, and we'll still rely on our brand partners, but there is a price to pay for a brand partner, and that's through a royalty. So again, we have some of the best brand partners in the industry. We really enjoy working with them, but we have to prioritize our own products in markets and through our retail outlets, for sure. So I think that will be a priority. Taking more shelf where we can and where we have gaps, and leaning into automation to get production at its highest levels and most efficient, and help lower the COGS and allow us to capture more vertical margin through our own retail stores. So that absolutely is a priority. But wholesale has been something that has offset the loss at retail as we see competition. So I think having a balanced approach still makes a lot of sense. We've just got to be smarter about where we route our biomass and what products and brands and form factors we do.
Wholesale revenue, like you said, impressive. Strong point of your business. Increased 20.1% year over year. Impressive, to say the least. What do you think, outside of what you've just outlined, that you're doing versus your competition is not? Because that's a healthy number, to say the least.
Yeah, I think two things that we have been successful on. It's meeting the customer where it is with larger formats and value brands. Simply Herb has become one of the top brands in all of our markets. And we were one of the early movers to a value brand. We're one of the early movers to large formats, and really trying to get the quality of our cannabis to the highest degree possible for the best value for the customer. So doing that, I think, has been what's key for us. And I do think pre-rolls, you see lots of stories about how pre-rolls are picking up market share. Again, an early adopter of pre-rolls. We brought Lowell Smokes here from California. Miss Grass is one of our partners in 3 states. Where we've leaned into automation, we've leaned into pre-rolls, and that's going to be another growth story for us as we look forward on product development, with either more infused options or more options generally on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about the densification strategy. I mean, you're in prime markets in the States: Maryland, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Jersey, to name a few. What's the strategy for growth? Is it to go deeper into those markets on a per door basis? And if so, what are the priorities? Is it getting Pennsylvania to 18, going deeper, let's say in a market like Michigan? Walk me through what that strategy looks like.
Yeah, we want to be a scale player in every market, right? We don't enter a market just to open a store and plant a flag. We enter a market to be a scale player. So to get to full scale, right, in Pennsylvania, that's another 12 stores than what we currently have today, including the 5 that are open. That's an important strategy for us, for sure. In New Jersey, with these partnership stores, that is another important strategy, right? We have capacity. The more we pump the product out of our cultivation facilities, the lower our cost of goods gets, the better we get at it. We've got to get to scale in all of those states. So that for us is the number one priority. And again, we'll always be opportunistically looking for new markets, but it doesn't beat where you have the fixed cost asset and you have the capabilities and you have the staff to maximize the scale there.
The average door is doing $4 million annually in Michigan. I learned that last week at an event, but a lot of private companies that are flourishing within that state as well. But how closely are you paying attention to Michigan, to like further to what Anthony said? And how would you best describe that market right now?
Michigan's a market that I think if we weren't in, we might not be as successful as we are in other markets, because Michigan got tough real quick. You have to be a good operator to survive there. Again, we make money there. And to make money in Michigan, it tells you how to run efficiently. It tells you how to get to scale and be a mostly vertical operator. So some of the lessons that we learned in Michigan in 2019, 2021, we've taken, and I think that's what's helping us guide in Massachusetts. Where Massachusetts has seen a drop in price per gram, very similar to Michigan. If not, they're already there. So I think operating in Michigan has been a great, learning curve for us. And it's somewhere where, again, scale matters and verticality matters. Because we don't wholesale in Michigan. We are all about our retail outlets, and we want to give the customers the best experience, because it's so competitive. I think it's over 700 stores recently. I haven't kept up these last month or two, but it seems like we're still at that level of customers have options. There are stores, when we operate in Ann Arbor or Grand Rapids, 20 plus stores in these markets. They have options. You've got to be good. You've got to meet the customer where they are.
Yeah.
How's the competition looking in New Jersey? One thing I have heard in New Jersey is that it's getting dense from a retail location standpoint. Boris was on with us last week from Curaleaf, and he said that one of their stores, that their store is absolutely killing it. It's still doing well in sales. He's got 20 retailers now around him in the close proximity. Are you experiencing any of that as well?
Yeah, I think we're very much experiencing it like our peers. I think if you look, we're in the northern section of New Jersey. That's where our original license is. I think that was one of the later markets versus central and south to feel that competition. But we've got stores now all around us. I'd say New Jersey is the market where retail is facing that competition and pressure and pricing pressure to compete. Much like you've seen, I think with the dry up of capital and the cultivation licenses being very scarce in New Jersey, from being a vertical player, we have a very distinct advantage where there's not a bunch of canopy going up. So we do have an advantage I think we can keep there. And that's why I think the balance between wholesale and retail will help us there.
I mean, how's Effin going? I know that we've seen a trend with effects-based products. I think you announced that it was about 3 weeks ago. With the Effin line, how's that resonating? Is that footprint wide, or is it just currently in certain markets, I guess, as a rollout or pilot program?
We've rolled it out in our 3 biggest markets. We're going to be rolling it out through the rest. The pilot went well. I mean, I think these are products that speak to a lot of different varying consumers, whether you're new, whether you're old like me. I mean, I'm a edible a night guy to help me to relax, go to bed. So we're meeting the customer again with what they want. We're doing it with minor cannabinoids that you can, dictate to some degree what the consumer will experience in a way I think that is fairly reliable. And it's a product that I love. So we introduced it a couple of weeks ago. It's been the #1 seller in our stores.
Really?
We obviously can price them aggressively in our stores. And I think, again, getting the customers we're trying to do customer acquisition. It's a new product for us, right? So if you're comfortable with these other products, try this one. I think it's been successful so far.
Frank, how would you best describe Samuel as CEO of the company?
Sam Brill?
Sam Brill, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, Sam. He's been on the board for a while now. He's been a very close confidant of mine. We were together working on the board, trying to ensure that the company was on the right path. So for me, this is a continued partnership with Sam, and one where his experience talking to investors in the street, it's wonderful. And I think this industry requires it to be a multiple person leadership where I can focus on the day-to-day operations. Sam can put more time into the investor base, the markets, and deliver the message that we have to deliver, whilst helping to set the overall strategy and capital allocation strategy. I think it works out. These these companies are hard, right? It's vertical based. We're growing plants, we're servicing customers, we're manufacturing products. I love the fact that I have a partner that can handle that side of the business while I can actually be in the facilities, because that is the key with this job. You got to be in the facilities. You got to be with the management and the hourly employees on a day-to-day basis. You cannot manage this business from afar.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Well, sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves and do it yourself, right? Because I think that's what we're learning more and more about a lot of companies in this space that are making changes. But the experience of cannabis and having that background is so important. And sometimes you got to live and learn through a lot of that process. But that's a common theme that we hear from a lot of people in this space. And I'd tend that you would probably agree to that.
Yeah, I mentioned founder led, right? And the founder mode that you're seeing. I think 5-6 years ago in this industry, or 4 to 5 years ago, it was a dirty word. It was like, you can't be founder led forever. And not to say that I'd like to leave this company forever, but generally speaking, the founder mode of being into every area of the business, understanding that you do have to pivot, that you are going to make mistakes, and you're able to acknowledge that and move on and be, in every facet of this business, I think is really key. And it's what's helping move some of these companies along.
I tend to agree with you, as we've seen the ones that the founders are still there, especially still running the ship, are the companies that are starting to flourish and separate from the pack.
Yeah.
In this industry.
Yeah, I don't want to sound self-serving when I say that. I don't.
I think.
Yeah, it is. There is something to it, and I'm glad that there's been more talk in financial markets about what being founder-led means and what that can impact to the company.
What would you say, I guess, is the message that you want to talk to, like, your investor group? Like, there's a lot of people that reach out to us about Ascend all the time. When you think of some of these tier 2 companies, you think back when the HHS made the recommendation in August of 2023, you were one of the stocks that actually moved the most. So I think that's really grabbed a lot of interest amongst retail investors. But with this, and we're going into a 2025 year, and there's some uncertainty, let's face it, with what happened, with the election happening down in Florida, stocks have been hit hard. But if you're looking at 2025, you got strong wholesale numbers. Yes, revenue's been flat, but for the most part, we've seen that across the board right now, across the industry. But what's the most important message that you want to get through to people on the growth potential of this company?
Yeah, I think it's that Ascend still has the best assets in the industry. Some of the most productive retail stores that will be productive retail stores for the long haul, and they're the ones that will be successful. And 2, this is a management team that is focused on cash flow generation, right? We've got to catch up to our peers on the margin side, and we've got to be a company that creates free cash flow. So, when I look at what the goals are for the company, it's to take those assets that are, among the best in the industry and churn free cash. That's what we're focused on doing. And that's the sort of singular focus of the company, and how we achieve that are all the things I've talked about.
Good stuff. Frank, appreciate your time. Thanks for checking in. Hopefully we can get Sam on in the near-term future as well. But best of luck moving forward, and appreciate the update. And thanks for sharing some of the insights on your latest earnings.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Talk to you.
Yeah.
Funny, that's a common theme that we're seeing more and more, is that founders are getting back into these positions. Obviously, Boris being another one with Cureleaf. But good point that you made, that a lot of these companies that are doing and performing well, these original founders are still in place.
I mean, I think you nailed it on the head. I think from an investor standpoint, we take it for granted what the businesses that we're investing in actually are. I mean, they're not easy businesses. Like, if you look at Florida, for an example, you're running 6 businesses simultaneously. You're running maybe even more, cultivation, distribution, manufacturing, retail, delivery. You're running everything out of the same business. They're hard. I think that's I don't think that can be stressed enough.
Don't look now. We got people commenting. Look forward to TDR Daily. Smash the like, people. What do you think? Every day?
Tuesdays and Thursdays. No. Nope.
Nobody had a Christie comment on the bingo card. You think? Yeah. Let's dive into that. What do you make of this? First off, I'll bring it up. So look, the market performed well today, and it was based off, obviously, the news of former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie suggesting that President-elect Donald Trump will attempt to deschedule cannabis. He was quoted saying, "What I suspect he would really like to do is get it downgraded by the DEA so that it's not illegal." This was reported by our good friends Javier Hasse over at Benzinga, but this was an exclusive interview that he took part in this. What do you make of this? Because I just, like you said, I didn't have Chris Christie on my bingo card commenting on cannabis.
Yeah, so I amplified it, I guess, after Todd Harrison tweeted it out.
Yeah.
Javier originally reported it on Benzinga, so I'm assuming it passes muster and there's integrity into Mr. Christie's statement. Tom kind of claimed that I was spreading opium and just completely unsubstantiated claims. I mean, I've been talking to people on the Republican side as well as some people that are very, very close to the transition team. And I mean, they are very, very hopeful, not even hopeful. They are very direct in the way that they talk about the way that the Trump administration is going to tackle the cannabis issue.
Which is,
like I had said, I don't want to get into the particulars on that right now. But as far as this statement goes, I mean, the market went parabolic right after the statement came out. And after thinking about it, the statement doesn't really make sense.
Why
I'm not saying the statement's not true. The statement is obviously true, as ex-Governor Christie is quoted in the Benzinga article. But Chris Christie has no affiliation to the Trump administration.
None.
They hate each other.
Yep.
He hates cannabis. It just seems completely out of placement from just what it is. It's a good comment. It's nice to see, but it has absolutely zero relevancy in the grand scheme of things. Governor Christie might have some insight into Donald Trump's way of thinking. I mean, I've heard things that Trump was going to reschedule cannabis in his original term and then got talked out of it by people in his administration. I've heard that Trump has mulled descheduling cannabis on certain occasions, but we obviously saw no action towards that. We saw his statement on True Social leading up to the election, where he came out in support of Amendment 3. He came out in support of state banking. He came out in support of states' rights. He made probably the most common sense approach statement to the industry that I've heard to date, especially from a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
But in the context of timing and just the way that the optics of it don't make sense. Like, why is Chris Christie speaking about Donald Trump's cannabis agenda? To me, it just left a lot to be determined.
Mohammed writes, Christie used to hate cannabis, not anymore. He has made some sense on cannabis today. Mohammed, can you maybe provide a couple examples? I was unaware of that because
I was unaware of that as well.
I was going to say, like, I just would like to, how did Javier set this up? And basically, because, he writes for Cannabis, for Benzinga. And if this is a former governor that hates cannabis, how is this whole interview and story even put together? That's where I'm.
There's a paywall, not a paywall, but there was a subscription wall in Benzinga.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for it. I read the quote. I read some of the headlines that I could see before it locked out. Apparently it was a article based on Chris Christie's opinion as to Trump's policies, what they could look like as it relates to cannabis and crypto. That he said the Trump administration would be very favorable on that. But like I said, as far as timing goes, and as far as him having a voice of legitimacy and thought leadership as it relates to the cannabis industry, that I don't understand whatsoever. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think there's some facts here, Mohammed, as well. I truly believe the Trump administration will be more productive than Democrats on moving by some reforms. And that's the word that we're getting right now. It's still early stages, so I can understand people being very speculative around a lot of this stuff right now. But there were some things. I remember last year we had Gretchen on, and she had mentioned that, look, we have one party in place, so whatever decision is going to be made, it'll be made a lot quicker versus a lot of stuff being contested in Congress, as what we saw and experienced the last 4 years. But one can only hope. So here we are.
I mean, Trump is. I'm not going to make an endorsement for Trump on cannabis. I'm going off of what I've heard. What I've heard is that he's talking about it. The topic is there. I want people to keep in consideration that his chief of staff was one of the biggest cannabis, or was associated with one of the biggest cannabis lobbying firms in the state of Florida. She knows the industry. She's seen the strongest medical market in the United States grow from the ground up. The topic is there for people to speak about. The AG is essential in what's going to happen. The DEA head is essential in what's going to happen. But also keep in mind that Donald Trump being in the Oval, the Senate maintaining its Republican majority, the House getting its Republican majority. That is going to enable Donald Trump to do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
And he also owns the Supreme Court because he stacked it with judges in his last term. Donald Trump is going to be able to push his agenda. So if this does have as much weight as people that I've spoken with are alluding to, and it is something that wants to happen, there's one thing that I can guarantee you: they hate Democrats more than they hate cannabis. That is for certain. So until I am proven otherwise, or until the tune is contrary to popular belief, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen in the 100-day agenda, because I do not expect that whatsoever. But I do expect them to say something next year and get something done next year as it relates to the cannabis industry.
Well, that's optimistic to say, based on your network you're speaking to. I think that's what people want to hear. Now it comes down to the almighty question, like we always wait, where we can't get a win in this space. What actually happened? But
and I want to stress that. And I want to stress that I'm not necessarily here to say things people want to hear. I'm saying things that I believe, and things that I'm hearing from people that I'm conversing with. Whether it's going to be negative or whether it's going to be positive, I'll continue to convey that message until proven otherwise.
Well, we're in a very uncertain time right now. There's a lot of unknowns. We're getting into tax law selling season the next couple of weeks. So I think it's going to be rough waters, obviously, for this space. Let's reevaluate things come January. I don't know, how things will look come the new year, but would you not say traditionally, like, this industry has never really performed all that strongly in December based on tax law selling season, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be tax law selling season. The industry's got kicked in the teeth completely over the next week. As far as I'm concerned, I think the reaction's completely overblown. It's ludicrous to me what some of these companies are trading at. I don't want to get into a one-on-one conversation about the just valuations and some of the dislocations. I mean, I think people that are viewing the show and people that I talk to, they understand the industry fundamentally enough to make those identifications themselves. But this doesn't make sense from a valuation perspective. Vidadi was talking about it last night on the spaces that we had. It doesn't make sense if you look at what some of these stocks are trading at from a multiple perspective. For instance, I said I wasn't going to do it, but whatever. Ascend's essentially trading at 1x EBITDA.
Yeah.
They're running at around a $500 million annualized top line run rate. Granted, they have room for improvement as it relates to margin expansion, but they've got a great top line number to reform the business and start to extract margin out of there. They got a baseline of 17.7%. The number can go up if they do streamline and optimize the business. But there's a bunch of those that are on the tape. I mean, today was a shot in the arm. It's great to see double-digit gains all around, but I stand by what I said earlier on Twitter, that I don't think these double-digit gains are warranted from speculation of something that Chris Christie spouted off on a Benzinga article.
Agreed.
Granted, it could have also been short covering, as well as just I don't want to call it a dead cat bounce, but a bounce off the lows of just getting crushed.
Agreed.
The RSI is laughable on a lot of these U.S. cannabis names right now, but I do think that there's going to be a hell of a lot of volatility from now until January.
Sunny B, yeah, I agree. Sunny B, I like what you said. I'd rather today's bump was because the meltdown from the last 7 days was way overdone versus something that was said.
Correct, but they were directly correlated. The market shot up as soon as that news started to go everywhere.
Yeah.
They were literally they were binary events.
Brett Sloan, our SNDL crew, is actually on the hound right now. We've reached out to Zach George. You've had some recent conversations with him, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
He thanked me for the write-up of SNDL's earnings in the newsletter the day after they reported earnings.
Brett, do you want us to get Zach back on? I think that's be an overwhelming yes. We actually could reach back out because I think it's been probably 6 weeks ago was the last time we tried. So, we'll send another email out this week and see if we can get him on the next week or two for the SNDL crew. There was another one from, I think it was Ashton Hodge. You guys need Nancy Mace back on. I can actually tell you that I spoke to their comms director this afternoon, and we are in the list of appearance approvals is the feedback that I received. So sounds like we will get her on. We'll keep you posted when she will be on next, but we're on a list of people that she needs to make appearances with. I don't know where we rank on that list, but we have reached out and we should have her on relatively soon. There was another message. It was from Gary where he asked, is Michigan losing cannabis business to Canada? And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. No. That is a federal offense if you carry weed over the border.
Yes. Oh, Sonny, that is actually a great point. So Agrify, GTI, and Senorita. Agrify purchased Senorita today, which is a hemp-derived margarita, D9 hemp-derived margarita. The purchase price of the company, I think, was somewhere around $2 million and change. So I'm assuming it is a very, very small business as it stands today. But when you really want to look at it and look at the moves that Ben has been making, he's got the partnership with Barstool.
Yes.
He's been courting Sam Adams. That's distribution.
Yeah.
He's already got the Brown Foreman connections.
Yeah.
The smartest beverage that he could have purchased was a D9 mocktail. If you're going to go to Barstool and try to have lightning strike twice with what they did with High Noon,
yes,
you're going to go into that channel with a D9 hemp-derived mocktail.
Smart.
You're not going to go with some huckleberry, seltzer, lavender stuff. You go with what's selling.
Yes,
it's at the intersection of what's trendy. D9 hemp-derived tequila, margarita. There's no tequila in it, but margarita mocktail. It is.
They've got.
I think that's
here.
A strategy. I'm going to hope that I'm right in my assumption, but I'm assuming Ben saw Senorita, like the brand, like the taste, like the formulation. He's doing what he's doing a very smart business move. You buy something that's small and unestablished, find the gigantic partners to partner with,
yes,
and then use your resources to blow it up. He basically went and found, if I'm right, the sales, distribution, and marketing, and then went and found the product to go sell into the channels. I'm pretty sure I'm right, and Ben is smart enough to architect it like that. So Agrify, essentially, which is up 58% today, is essentially going to become the hemp-derived beverage arm for GTI, from what it looks like.
Think of that story, Ryan Whitney. It all began with a bottle of New Amsterdam vodka and some pink lemonade and a podcast. Pink Whitney. You've heard of that brand?
I haven't.
No? It's like one of the biggest selling vodka brands now in North America. But it was all from that Spit and Chicklets with Paul Bissonnette, Ryan Whitney. They were doing that podcast. I think they're actually on, if I'm correct. Are they part of Barstool Sports now? No, they're not.
Spit and Chicklets is Barstool. Yeah, it is.
Oh, that is Barstool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of Barstool's, I think it's Foreplay, the golf podcast, and Spit and Chicklets are two of their biggest properties.
Yeah, and that product it went crazy, and you can kind of see the same strategy as to what Ben's doing. That is a really good point. And like
I'm going to guess here that you're going to see an episode of Megan making munchies. They're making tacos, and they're drinking D9 margaritas. I will bet any money that happens within the next 3 months.
You related to Boris? Pretty good visionary, my friend.
I'm not, but if Ben wants to talk strategy, come on the podcast, Ben.
Yes. Love to get him on. Thanks, Brad, for the response. Yeah, we'll work on that, my friend. But yeah, I don't ever want anybody thinking that we're purposely not, like, we don't operate that way. I know there's paid platforms that only want to have specific companies on. Not like that, paid or not paid. We're obviously trying to cover as much coverage as possible to every single company in the space. But anything else I want to see comment-wise here today? Tomorrow, we got anything on tap for tomorrow? I'm trying to think. I think New Lake actually reports
tomorrow. We Michael DeJulio.
Michael DeGiulio from Village Farms is back on. We had to
Village,
push that from yesterday. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah.
And
Another earnings report.
lots on the go as we unveil more earnings, and you'll be happy to hear people as well. But Consortium, Robert Beasley, their CEO, we finally got through to them, and I think they report, what's today, the 12th? I think they report a week from Friday on November 22nd, if I'm correct. And he is going to be on. If I look up my schedule right now real quick, I'll have to double check. I don't have it in my calendar right now, but yeah, we're going to have him on next week for their latest earnings as well. I know a lot of people have reached out, and that's a company that people have watched closely as far as a Florida player. So we will have Robert Beasley on for the first time, which I think a lot of people will be excited to see, get a chance to know who he is and really what the direction of this company is, because it's got some great assets in Florida. And you've obviously hinted before, could there be a play for a merger and acquisition as we talk more and more about that within that market? But what were we going to say?
They just merged with Etain.
With Etain.
Canopy Rib Capital.
You're right. My apologies for not understanding.
And now they've got Scott's Miracle Grow back behind them. So things are looking up for them. They need a lot of cash to scale out Florida and also scale out New York. But things are definitely looking in the right direction for Consortium and the combined entity with Rib Capital.
Fluent. All right. I will check you later then tomorrow. We'll get back connected. I think we're going to wear our Village Farms shirts tomorrow when we have Michael DeGiulio on. So he had some other stellar performance on his earnings, quietly going about their way and doing a great job. So we'll learn more about that, amongst other things. We'll keep our eyes peeled as far as any other news breaking out of Washington, and see what we can find on our bingo card for tomorrow as to who comments on cannabis. But not a dull moment right now.
Maybe Jeff Sessions comes out of the woodwork tomorrow and is now a cannabis advocate. Now that Chris Christie is singing a new tune.
Jeff Sessions.
Good old
How
Jeff.
long was when did he leave as Attorney General?
Made my life a living hell for a year and a half.
When did he leave? He didn't last the full 4 years. It was
Trump was in 2016. I think Sessions was out by 2018.
Yeah, I think
maybe
so.
mid 2017. I could be wrong, but I think it was like an 18 to 24 month stint. That good old little Jeffy was there.
Yeah. Special hello going out to Ryan too. I saw at the hockey arena at my daughter's practice yesterday. This guy actually saw, like, he was startled and he's like, "Are you from TDR?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." He was in shock, but he DMs us on Twitter. So Ryan, if you're watching this, great seeing you yesterday at the rink, and glad to see that you're a supportive of the live stream. But again, appreciate everybody. Smash that like button. Leave lots of comments. Any feedback, any guests that you want us to get on. Is there anyone we're missing during this earnings season? Let us know. We'll reach out right away. And as usual, stay up to date with all the latest information out of Washington and the network that Anthony's reaching out to you by scanning that QR code and subscribing to our Baked In newsletter. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 4.
Yep. Mohammed, no.
What is up, everybody? What did you all think of the latest live stream? We'd love to get your feedback. We'd love to know what you think is going to happen in this cannabis space. Will we see legislation in the next few months? And what does this mean for the overall cannabis industry? Make sure to smash that like button. We got to share this basically community with everybody out there. So make sure to share this video with your network. Leave some comments below, as I just said, and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications. And if you haven't done so already, listen, right now we've got 60% of our viewers that are subscribed to our channel, 40% are not. So greatly appreciate it if you haven't done so already to subscribe to our channel, because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone.